Hey everybody, Matty Ice here, and today we're going to be going over a Warlock Arc 3.0 PvP build. Now, if you know me, you know I'm not the best PvP player, but I've been finding some decent success with this one, and I think I actually saw some other people posting stuff about this before. I just never got around to actually making the video on it until now, so sorry in advance if you've seen something pretty similar to this. Now, this build focuses on a couple different things. You're going to be using the slide melee on Arc 3.0, and then you're going to be doing the dead messenger or any kind of wave frame or shotgun as your extra damage dealer. So the way this works is you're going to slide and shoot at the same time, or roughly right next to each other, and then you're going to activate your slide melee. Now what this does is it allows you to shoot while sliding, and also it compresses all the pellets if you're using a pellet shotgun into one single point, so it basically acts as a slug. And if you're using a wave frame, it just shoots the wave frame grenade launcher right in front of you. Now this allows you to do enough damage to typically break shields, and you can then follow it up with the melee, which should finish them off. The melee also has a chain lightning effect, so if you've seen in the background gameplay here, the chain lightning often gets me more than one kill if there's more than one person around, because the jolt and the chain lightning does enough to damage them, and then every so often if you don't hit them at all with like the wave frame or anything to follow it up with, it doesn't actually finish them off. So that's the concept of the build, is you run around, you shoot to damage them just slightly enough to where your melee can finish them off, and then your rift and your grenades are kind of secondary. The rift is to help get you a little bit extra damage and keep you alive with the arc soul, and then the grenade is to just, again, like provide a little bit of extra damage there. I recommend doing this with some form of SMG or something with very high handling as your kinetic slot, just because you want to be able to switch over to that quickly. And then that should be about everything you need to know. Super is about preference here. Whether you do Storm Trance or Chaos Reach, that's up to you. But yeah, this background gameplay was recorded a couple weeks ago when I was testing it out in Control, and you can see it's working fairly well for me. The main thing holding me back here is PvP skill and execution and follow up off of the melee. So one thing I did notice that I consider a shortcoming is that after you execute your melee, and even during the melee, you are somewhat vulnerable. So you see in one instance I was sniped immediately after the melee. During the melee I've been shotgunned before, I've been supered before. So the teleport does not make you invulnerable, it doesn't really give you any extra resistance. It just kind of is harder to track you from up close. So just keep that in mind and be aware of its shortcomings if you're going to run this build. And next I'm going to get into the actual loadout and the aspects, fragments, all that stuff here. Alright, so getting into the build here, obviously the best exotic weaponry I can come up with is Dead Messenger. You can use any kind of shotgun. Pellet shotguns will all get condensed into one spot. You can use any wave frame, but Dead Messenger, since it has the 3 waves, makes it easier to hit. It's a little more forgiving. And you can pair it with any kind of hand cannon, pulse, whatever you want to do there. But if you, for whatever reason, wanted to use something like Hawk Moon or any exotic primary, you can use a wave frame or a shotgun down here. You'll have similar results, but again, this is just going to be a little more forgiving here. Alright, for the helmet, I did arc on pretty much most of these pieces of armor, just because arc is centered around melee. So I did hands-on so I can get extra super energy on melee kills. Well of Striking, you don't really get any arc wells in PvP, but if you are able to generate one, gives you a little bit of extra melee energy. Claws of Ahamkara. This is going to be the best thing that I could think of for your arms and just your exotic armor. There are other options out there, such as Sanguine, for extra heals, necrotics maybe, if you wanted to potentially just one-shot someone with just the melee without using the weapon slide. But anyway, arc on the arms, just give you extra grenade cooldown. You could do it the other way, you could put them solar or void to get your class ability or your melee cooldown. But you're going to be doing a lot of melee damage, so this is going to kind of help you have a little bit more ability spam with your grenade, kind of synergizing the whole loadout. But if you want to go super melee focused, you could swap this around. And again, well striking, just because I couldn't really think of anything else to take up the 1 energy slot there. On the robes, you can pretty much do whatever you want here. There's nothing really outstanding for chest armor, in my opinion. You could do like the reserves or like the unflinching for like whatever primary you're using, but flinching isn't really going to hurt you when you're doing the slide shot with the grenade launcher, so it's kind of up for interpretation there. On the boots, you've got a little wiggle room here as well. I did solar boots. You can tweak the loadout here if you want to do like anything particular, like font of might. If you want to just not do any of these elemental well mods and just go purely into like a grenade launcher holster. Again, you can do any kind of these holster mods. You can do a scavenger mod, but they don't really work in PvP anymore. And then this is a PvP loadout, so again, I recommend like a holster. And then on the bond, again, you got a little wiggle room here. I went arc just so I could put radiant light on there, get the extra 20 strength, and then outreach, just so I can get my melee back even faster with the class ability. You are going to be spamming both your class ability and your melee a lot with this build, because the class ability is going to give you your arc soul, and the melee is what you're doing to get a lot of those kills. So this is what I went with. Again, you can kind of rework this a little bit to fit whatever you want. But again, the goal is to do melee damage, rift to get your arc soul, and then kind of primary anything that's at range. And then just kind of get your kills that way. Alright, into the abilities. You can go whichever one you prefer, Chaos Reach or Storm Trance. Storm Trance is a little bit better of a roaming super, although I wish it killed a little faster. But it has the landfall and ionic blink intrinsically now, so it's kind of nice there. Again, you can go with Empowering Rift. I prefer Healing Rift just to have a little extra survivability. You're going to want to go Chain Lightning, just because Ball Lightning has a longer base cooldown. You can see it's 153 as opposed to 130, and that base cooldown does actually make a big difference. So you'll lose the range of your melee with Chain Lightning, but it's going to allow you to spam your melee a lot faster. Because ideally you won't be using your regular melee attack, you'll just be using your slide melee. Grenades, you're going to want to go with something that's got a shorter cooldown. I prefer Arc Bolt or Storm Grenade. Those are both 145s. Pulse is 201, so I tend to avoid that one. Blind is shorter at 131, but it's a little harder to hit. But you can go blind if you want to. But again, since this build is focused around melee, the grenades just to kind of help do a little bit of extra damage around corners and just just help you out in general, but it's not the focus of the build. Alright, Lightning Surge, obviously kind of the pinnacle thing here, the key aspect, if you will. So this is going to allow you to do your slide melee attack. It jolts targets as you come out of it, and it does a good bit of damage. The jolt is actually very effective here, so I definitely recommend like building into that jolt damage and making sure you can follow up with it. Because if they're in groups together, the jolt will hurt anyone nearby. Arc Soul, you could go Electrostatic Mind. I don't really recommend it, just because your abilities are coming back fast enough anyways. So if you do defeat a jolted target, which you will, and anytime you get those melee kills, you'll get the Ionic Trace and become amplified. But I don't really think that's necessary. So I prefer the Arc Soul just because it lets you get a little extra free damage out there. Alright, for fragments, I run Resistance, just because you can take a little more hits in PvP, and it's 10 extra strength. Spark of Momentum, this one's kind of a preference one. You can take it off if you want, but if you slide over special ammo, it'll automatically reload your weapons and give you some melee energy. I'm still struggling to remember to use this one, so that's why I say it's a bit of a flex slot. But if you can remember to use this, it's pretty powerful, because the grenade launcher takes a little while to reload. Spark of Ions. Again, you defeat a jolted target, you already generate a trace. That's why I didn't really think it's necessary for Electrostatic Mind. And then Spark of Focus. After sprinting, your class ability is regen is increased. So again, if you're running low on class ability, you can either get melee hits, melee kills, get those ionic traces, or you can just kind of run around, which you should be doing anyway, since this whole build is about basically holding W, running, sliding, melee. Some other key notes here. You could go Spark of Magnitude instead of the sliding one, just because if you're going to be running a Storm Grenade, it's going to be pretty beneficial. That extra lingering duration is pretty nice. Taking melee damage increases your outgoing melee damage. I don't really like this one for feedback, just because if you're getting a fist fight, you've already lost. You should be ending this in one quick swoop. And then a lot of these others I don't really prefer. You could take Spark of Recharge in place of Spark of Focus. They do similar things, but this one requires you to get hurt, and I don't like to take hits if I don't have to. And then Spark of Frequency is the other one I would potentially recommend, just because melee hits, not necessarily kills, but just hits, increase your reload speed. So again, if you want to swap out momentum for frequency, I would be okay with that. But yeah, that is the build. It's very effective, as you've seen in the clips before, and with Iron Banner being out now, it's definitely something enjoyable. Kind of make the PvP grind a little more fun. So yeah, check it out, let me know what you think. And as always, if you could like and subscribe, I'd greatly appreciate it. And I will catch you in the next one.